Hello friends, this is Deepa Shah from ThinkQuotient. Today we are going to learn about basics of Python. So before learning basic, let's see the brief history of Python. So Python is an interpreted high-level language. It was developed by Guido van Rossum in 1991. He started Python as an hobby project and he named it after the famous comedy television show named Monty's Python Flying Circus. Now Python is a very easy language to learn. The syntax is simple, so it's a very good programming language for beginners. And writing programs in Python will take less time than any other language. Now looking at the advantages, so the first thing we can see over here is that Python is an interpreted language. So interpreter means every code is executed line by line. The second advantage is it's a dynamically typed language. So dynamically typed language means that we are not required to specify the type of variable. Okay, so normally in Java and C++ we write, whenever we declare a variable, we have to specify int a, string s, or float e, whatever you are doing. But in Python, we are not required to specify the type of variable. The type to that variable will be assigned dynamically based on the value. So the type of that what this variable type will be, it will be decided depending upon what. So if I write a equals to 10, then the type of a will be int. If I write b equals to 7.8, the type of b will be int. Dynamically at runtime, the type of b will be what? Float. So dynamically typed language means we never explicitly specify the type. Depending upon the value, the interpreter will accordingly assign the type dynamically. The next advantage is it's very easy to use. As Python, the syntax is simple. It's easy English like syntax. It's easy to learn, simple to implement. So Python is a very good language for beginners. The next advantage is it's freeware and open source. So freeware basically means is it can be downloaded free of cost, and the source code is open, so you can download it. If some modification is required, you want to modify according to your requirement, you can do it. So open source means the source code, we can see the source code, we can modify it, update according to our requirement. The next thing, or we can say the next advantage, is portability. So portability basically means it's the ability to run on variety of hardware platforms and operating system. Basically you need not, so if a code is written on some machine, there is no change which is required in the code. You can run the same code on another operating systems also. The next advantage is portability. The next advantage is programming support. So Python supports both type of programming. Basically you can do procedure oriented, that is functional programming, as well as object oriented programming, also shell scripting you can do. So in Python it supports both type of programming, that is procedure oriented, that is functional programming, as well as object oriented programming. So if you take an example over here, C is a procedure oriented, or we can say it supports modular programming, whereas C++ and Java are object oriented programming. But Python is both, it supports both types. So according to our requirement, we'll write the code. Now in market there are various multiple Python distributions available. So we can go to the official site and download Python, that is www.python.org. and when you download Python, along with the Python, that is you will get is Python interpreter. Then the default IDE you get over there is idle. Okay, this is the IDE you get over there. If you want, you can also use PyCharm. It's an editor where we can write program, debug, and run the program. Or there are many editors, that is IDE, available in market. And there are Anaconda. So Anaconda is the next Python distribution, which is highly recommended for data science learning purpose, because it comes preloaded with many packages and libraries like NumPy, Pandas, SciPy, etc. So Anaconda is again one such distribution for Python. Now as we are learning Python from data science perspective, we are going to use Anaconda. Okay, so the advantage of using, instead of going to this site, if we use Anaconda, the advantage is this packages which we require in data science, that is NumPy pandas, instead of using pip and installing this command, these are preloaded already. These packages are present in your Anaconda distribution, so there is no need to explicitly download it. Okay, so that's why. And over here you get Jupyter Notebook, which is web based and all those things. So when we start, we'll see over there. So Anaconda Python distribution is which we are going to use for writing programs. Now whenever we write program in Python, you can work in Python in two modes. So the two modes are basically interactive mode, we can say, and scripting mode. So interactive mode means what command, the command you type, it immediately executes and gives you the output. So in the shell mode, in the Python shell, if you write command 10 plus 20, it will immediately give you the output. And what is scripting mode? In scripting mode, we are going to create a file. Inside that file we are going to write some program or logic, whatever we want, and we are going to save that file with .py extension, that is Python extension is .py, and then we can execute this py file either in the shell or we can execute it in the command prompt. So there are two programming modes. One is interactive, that is interactive is where immediate mode, we can say, wherever we type the command immediately we get the output, and other is script mode. Okay, now moving next. So there are various data types we have in every language. So Python also supports the data types which it supports is int, float, bool, string, and complex. Complex is a special data type, we can say, in Python. And also there are many composite data types like list, dict, tuple, set. Then you also have over here is frozen set. Then you have is range. Many are there. So in this session we are going to learn about the basic data types and what are the operations we can perform and how to take basic input from console. So all these things we are going to learn in this session. So now I am going to practically show you how to do this all things. Okay, I am going to show you what is shell mode and what is scripting mode. So before moving to practicals, the last thing which is remaining over here is identifiers. Now what are identifiers? Basically identifier is a name which we give either to a class, either to a file, or either to a variable or functions. So what are the rules are? First of all, Python is a case sensitive language. So case sensitive means uppercase and lowercase. These are two different things. The second thing is identifier should start either with a letter, that is capital A to small a, so capital A to Z or small a to Z, or underscore. Okay, so it should start either with A to Z or small a to Z or underscore, and after this you can have n number of letters or digits or underscore. Means the first letter should be alphabet or underscore, and after that you can have 0 or more letters or digits or underscore. Now no other leaving underscore, no special character is allowed, that is dollar is not allowed, @ percentage, space, white space, nothing is allowed. Okay, so these are the rules for naming an identifier or variable, or we can say method, functions. Now moving to practical sessions and showing you this, I have already installed Python. Okay, so I have already installed Python. So what we will do is Anaconda I have already installed. So this is my Anaconda. Over here we can see. Okay, and in this Anaconda, if I just see, we can have Anaconda Navigator, then we have PowerShell, then we have Anaconda Prompt over here down below. Okay, we have Jupyter Notebook, we have Spider, that is I told you it's an IDE editor like PyCharm where we can write the code. So now I am going to use Anaconda Prompt basically, and now I am going to show you what is shell mode. Okay, so this is my Anaconda Prompt, and I am here going to type the word, either we can type Py or I can write the word Python. So when I write Python, the shell has started over here, the Python interpreter has started over here. Now if I write a command called 10 plus 20, okay, and see the output over here, the output over here is 30. Okay, so now if so, this is shell mode. Shell mode means what? You type a command, you immediately get the output over here. So if I write over here 2 into 78, so you will get the output over here is 156. So this is a shell mode where you give a command, it is immediately executed. Okay, now if I want to declare a variable in Python, we write just the variable name a and whatever value you want to assign over here. So I have written a equals to 90. So the value of a is now what? 90. Now if I press enter and if I want to see the value, I can write just A or I can say print A. So if I write A, I can see the value of A is 90. Now we have learned that Python is a dynamically typed language. So dynamically typed language means we never specify the type over here. Okay, we have not written int or I have not written anything. Dynamically, based on the value, the type will be assigned by the interpreter itself. So if I check over here, so we have got one function called type. Okay, the type is a function which will tell you what is the type of that object which you have passed. So if I say type and A and press enter over here, we can see the type of A is what? Integer. Okay, so the type of A is now what? Integer. It's written class and int. Now in Python, everything everything is in form of object, and this A is just a reference variable. It is not holding the value. It's just a reference variable. It's just pointing to the object that is having the value 9. So A is a reference variable and 90 is the object which is there in the memory, and A is pointing to this object called 90. Now if I write over here B is equal to suppose 9.7 and press enter. So now if I see over here is what I see over here is type of B. So you will see over here the type of B is what? Float. So what we can understand from this is that depending upon the type you value you put, accordingly the Python interpreter will give the data type. So now we have one data type is int, the other data type is float. Now suppose I want to insert a mobile number, I can write as big as number you want. So if I write 980081 and something I write over here, or a big number over here, it's perfectly fine. So int is capable of storing a mobile number too, or a big number. So we can store a large number inside a int data type. Similarly, we also have float. Similar to float, we have one more data type called bool. So if I write over here, suppose C is equal to capital T, yes, so true. I write over here and press enter, and then I check what is the value of C, it's true, and then I check type of C. Okay, type of C, what I can see, the class is what? Bool. So it's of bool type. This object C is of what type? Bool. Basically this true is what of what type? Bool. So we have, I told you the basic data types we have is int, float, bool. Similarly, string now, and the one more important thing I would like to tell is that the T is capital over here. True and false both are capital over here. So if we want to see list of keywords, we can just type help over here this way, and we go to help utility over here. Now over here, if I type over here keywords, okay, so this is a list of keywords which we can see over here. The list of keywords we have is different keywords, and false, none and true, all these three keywords are in capital. The first initial is capital, and these are the keywords which we learn gradually. What are the keywords? Class, else if, else, except, finally, for, and all this lambda is in all these things we have. Okay, so this is a list of keyword. I feel almost 33 keywords are there. So this is a list of keywords. Now moving back, so I'll just press Q and move to the shell back. Now if I write over here string, now if I want to store someone's name, what I can do? nm is equal to, in Python a string can be enclosed either in single quotes or in double quotes. Both is perfectly fine over here. So if I write string double quotes over here and I write some name over here, suppose Sonali, and I press enter over here and I check the value of nm, it is Sonali. And if I check type of nm over here, you will see the type is str. Okay, now in Python you can enclose a string in single quotes and double quotes both. Suppose I write over here is one more thing is last name is equal to some name over here in single quotes. Suppose I write Shah and press enter over here. So you can see now a single quote is also allowed over here. So single quotes and double quotes both are perfectly fine. A string can be enclosed in single quotes and double quotes both. Here we don't have any type called char. Those who are from C++, Java background, we normally over there we use single quote to specify a character, but in Python we don't have a concept called char data type separately. So if I write this way, what I'll write over here is, suppose I write over here gender is equal to, and in single quotes if I specify F. So now what would be the type of gender? So definitely the type of gender will be what? Of type char, string, because in Python anything which is enclosed in single quotes or double quotes, both are considered as string. So now if I type over here, you will see the type of gender is what over here is string. Okay, so single quote and double quote both are used for representing a string. In Python we don't have a type called char, so there is no as data type such as char. So even if I write single quote F, this is treated as string. Now moving ahead to complex. Okay, now what is complex data type? Basically is complex data type consists of a real part and an imaginary. So if I write over here C is equal to, this is my real, and plus and the imaginary part over here, okay, or imaginary part over here, and I write over here J. Okay, so basically complex data type is used for scientific calculations. So if I write over here like this, you can see this is the value, and if I check the type of C over here, it will be what? Complex. Okay, so complex data type is always represented in which format? It's represented in the first, before plus we write the real part, then we have the imaginary part, and then J is a constant which is I think negative square root of 1 minus 1. So this is the real part plus imaginary part, and J will make this is of which type? When we write like this, it becomes a complex number. So complex number is always represented using real plus imaginary and J as a constant. So this is my complex number. Okay, so till now what things we have learned is that first of all, in Python we have dynamic typing. Dynamic typing means we never specify the type explicitly. At runtime, depending upon the value, the type will be assigned. The second thing we have learned is these are the basic data types. So whenever you declare a variable, automatically the interpreter will assign the type. So int is a whole number, float is some decimal number, boolean will take only two values, that is true or false. String can be enclosed in single quote or double quote, both over here, and complex number consists of real part plus imaginary part. Okay, now moving ahead, every variable, see in Python basically whenever you declare a variable over here, we can say A is a variable. Okay, just I'll change the color over here, this, and the size over here will take this. So whenever you declare a variable this way, A is equal to 10, something like that. So we can say A is a reference variable, okay, which is pointing to some object which is storing some value over here. Inside it is what? 10. So inside this object you have a value of 10. Okay, and this is my reference variable. So this is going to store the address of this object. Assume the address of this object is 100 or 1000. Suppose the address is 1000. So A is a reference variable which is holding the address over here is 1000. So in Python everything is in form of objects. So if I want to know the address or the memory location, we have got one function called id. So type is going to tell you the type of object, what type of object this is, and id is going to give you the address. So if I write over here id of A, now what is A? A is a variable, or we can just declare one thing over here. Suppose I write A is equal to 10, and now if I want to check what is the id or what is the address of A, what address it is holding, so we can write id of A. Okay, so id of A will give you the memory location over here. Similarly, if I write B is equal to suppose 90 over here, so if I want to check the id, I'll write the function id and pass the object whose id you want to know. So we'll pass id of B, and you can see it's some memory location over here. Now moving ahead, so if you look over here now, the thing which is we need to notice over here is, if I write now A is equal to A plus 5 suppose, okay, and I check the value of A, it is 15. Okay, so if I check id of A now again, okay, so this id which we had over here, this id over here, you can check this, and these are now two different IDs which we can get. Now what is happening actually in background? So actually what is happening over here is that this variable A was pointing to an object over here, and the value inside this object, over here, it was what, 10. Okay, so the value inside this object was 10 over here. Okay, and now okay, so the value over here was 10 inside this object, and a was pointing over here. When you say a is equal to a plus 5, what happens over here is that this object is immutable. In Python, int, float, string, bool and complex, all these are immutable types. Immutable means what? Once the object is created, the contents can't change. So if there is a need to change, it will create a new object over here. So 10 plus 5, an object of 15 will be created over here, and now a will be pointing over here. So whatever is the address of this variable, suppose it is 2000, so first it was holding the address 1000, now it will hold the address as what, 2000. So that's why what we have seen over here is, initially when I first created a with 10 and I checked the memory location, it was this one. But then when I incremented the value of a equals to a plus 5, okay, and it became 15 over here, but it created a new object with value 15, and now a is pointing to this. So this proves that int, the basic data types we can declare, say over here, they are immutable. So in Python, this data types, basic data types are immutable. So giving one more example, suppose I say b is equal to some value over here, 9.8. okay, now I check id of b, suppose over here. So what is the id of b? We can see over here is some number over here, 2911664 over here. Now if I write over here b is equal to b plus 1 or b plus 2, whatever you want to write, so, and we check the value of b over here, now it is 11. So initially it was 9.8, now it became 11.98. okay, over here it's 11.98. Now if I check id of b again, after incrementing it by 2, whether it is pointing to the same, it has made change in the same object or it has created a new object. So if you see over here, this number and this number is separate. So this proves that these objects are immutable. The objects which are created are immutable. We can't change them. If there is a requirement or you're doing some updation over here, it will always create in background a new object. Okay, so the basic data types like int, float, bool, string, complex, all are immutable. And immutable means they can't change once the object is created, and if there is a requirement in background, it is always going to create a new object. Now the next thing is, suppose I write over here a equals to 10. okay, and I write over, so I check the id of a, or I write, okay, I'll check id of a. So it is some number we can see over here. Okay, and if I write over here id of, suppose I declare one more variable, suppose I write over here d is equal to 10, and if I check id of d, so we will see over here is that id, one minute, id of b I have written, okay, my mistake. So I'll do it again. So I'll just clear it up. Okay, what we can do is Control L. Okay, and so what I'll do over here is I'll just clear up the screen and show you. So again I will do over here is a equals to 10. Okay, id of a, and b equals to 10, and id of b I write, suppose. So you can see one more time I write over here, suppose I take some new number over variable over here, e number, employee number or something, and I assign over here 10 again. If I check over here id of eno, so again we can see, so all these three reference a, b and eno all are giving us the same address over here, 140 and 40, whatever address they are showing, 408, 408. So in Python, what is happening over here is, whenever the Python interpreter will start, okay, so it is going to create some objects by default over here. So some objects will be created, and whenever you ask for object within that range, it is always going to give you the same object back. Okay, so what does this mean is, if I want to show over here is, I'll just clear up over here first. So if this is my variable, okay, so a is a variable. Okay, which is pointing to a object which is holding the value over here is 10. So A is holding the reference over here, some reference over here, some address over here. Take an example, I write over here 408, the last part of the address. Now second time when I create B equals to 10, see there is already Python interpreter has some common objects already created. So it has got some objects over here like 10, 20, 1 to from 1 or we can say from 0 to 256. Okay, 0 to 256. These objects are already preloaded or pre-created in Python. So whenever you say A equals to 10, it will see in the list of objects which it has already created is 10 there. If 10 is there, it is just going to return the reference back. It is not going to create a new object. So second time when I write B equals to 10, it will see that 10 is within the range of 0 to 256. The same reference. So the reference over here, suppose the object reference over here is 408. This is the reference over here. The same reference it is going to give to B also. So B is also holding the same reference over here, that is 408. So new object is not created over here. So 1 minute, I'll just show you properly over here is what is happening is in memory there are already some objects created from 0 to, we can say there is an array of which have got objects. 0 is there, 1 is there, 2 is there, this way we have 10 also, this way we have 90 also. So this it creates object from the range. These are the basically commonly used required numbers. So from 0 to 256 these objects are already created. Okay, and now these objects have got some addresses. Suppose the address of 0 is 100, take an example, or 100 or 1000, whatever you want to take. This is 1002 or 4, whatever you want over here. So every object has got some reference. So when you say A equals to 10, okay, when you say A equals to 10, what it will do is it will check whether in my objects which are already created over here, do I have a object called 10? It's there. So whatever is the address of this variable over here, it is going. So A will start now pointing over here to this object which is already created. Okay, so now A is pointing over here and it is holding the address of 2000 over here. Next time when you write B equals to 2000, what will happen is B is also pointing to the common share copy over here. So B is also pointing over here. When you write ENO over here, so all these three variables are pointing to the same common object over here. And why they are doing this is because basically memory utilization, to memory performance, or we can say effective memory utilization. So the common things which are required, they are already created. So every time whenever you ask within this range, this same copy will be shared. Okay, and as this is immutable, there is no problem over here. This is immutable. I already told you that in Python the int type, float, and all these objects which we create, they are immutable, so you can't change it. So all these three variables are pointing to the same. So when we check the ID, it's showing us the same number. Okay, now if I ask you, if I go outside the range, that is if I write over here A is equal to 258 and I check now ID of A over here, definitely this ID is some big number over here. And now if I write over here B is also equal to 258 and now I check ID of B over here, it will be some different number over here. Okay, so you can see these two are separate numbers over here. Why? As I told you, only for the range of 0 to 256, Python interpreter has already pre-built objects, or we can say pre-created objects. So within this range, if it is there, it will search in the area where the objects are created and give you the same reference back. But above that, if there is any number, it is always explicitly going to create a new object, and that reference it is going to assign over here. So A and B both are pointing to two separate objects over here. So when it's not within the range over here, so now if A is holding a value of 258, so there is one object called 258 separately in memory, and whatever is the address of this, A is holding the reference over here, it is pointing over here, so it is holding the reference over here, whatever is the address over here. Similarly, second time when you write B equals to 258, again it is going to create a separate object. As it's not within the range, Python interpreter is going to create these two objects separately over here, and both the object will have, this proves that ID is showing you two different references. Okay, so by default in Python, Python has got some objects already created in its memory. So the range is from 0 to 256. Okay, whenever the Python interpreter starts, it will immediately create this object. So whenever you'll ask within the range, it will give you. Other than that, it will not give you. And for float, we don't have any such range, because in float there are many decimal numbers you can have. Between 0 to 1 only there are infinite combinations. So for float, if I write float 0, suppose I write over here float, suppose I write over here 1.0, okay, sorry, we don't write float, sorry, my mistake. If we write over here a is equal to, suppose we write over here 9.8 over here, okay, and if I check the ID of 8 now, a over here, okay, and I write over here b is equal to 9.8. Now I check ID of a over here, okay, so b over here. So you will see that both the IDs are separate, even though both are storing 9.8, because for float there are no pre-built objects created, because if you think of a single range 0 to 1, in float there are infinite combinations. You can write 0.1, 0.2, 0.001, 0.002. So for float there is no pre-built or pre-created object. Every time whatever value you insert, it is going to create new objects. Okay, so this is the basics basically. So the first thing we have learned is that in Python the basic data types are immutable, so whenever there is a change, always a new object will be created. The second thing is, for int the range of 0 to 256 objects are already pre-created, so whenever you refer, it will always refer to the same reference. Above 256, it's always going to create a new object. Okay, now if I talk about true and false, for bool it is not going to create every time, because we have only two possible values, true or false. Okay, now what are different operators or operators in Python? Okay, so if I show you this word file, so we can see over here is that in Python we have different operators like arithmetic operators, relational operators, logical operators are this and or not. Then you have membership operator, identity operator, bitwise operator. So we have got different types of operators. So we'll go gradually from arithmetic operators, we'll move ahead. So which are arithmetic operators we have is plus, minus, star, slash, double slash, star and 2/ over here. Okay, so now let's do one by one and check it. So if I just press over here is Control L and just I go over here. Now suppose I have a equals to 10 and suppose I have b is equal to 3, and if I write over here, what I'll write over here, a plus b, you will get addition, that we know plus does addition over here. Then if I write a into b, you will get multiplication over here. If I write a divided by b, okay, so this will give you what? Quotient, but the quotient will have fraction part also, that is decimal. So it's giving you the whole division over here, that is this is my whole number along with the whole fraction over here. Okay, so this slash will give you this, the whole fraction part over here. So if I use 2/ over here, okay, so 2/ will give me only the whole part, that is 3, and the fraction will be truncated over here. So a single slash will give you decimal plus the whole number plus the decimal part, everything, the detail with precision it will give you, whereas 2/ it is also called as floor division operator. So this will only give you what? The whole this before point, whatever number you get, that number it will return you. This decimal part, whatever after point you have, it is going to discard it. Okay, then you have minus, it's very simple to understand. A minus b, it is going to do subtraction, that is 10 minus 7 is 3 is 7. Then we also have an operator called mod. Mod operator always gives you remainder. So if I divide 10 by 3, the remainder will be what? 1. So mod operator will give you remainder. Similarly, you have exponent over here. So 2* is like power function, mat.pow. So if I write a dot $b over here, it will get, you will get 10 raised to 3, that is 3000. 1000 over here. 10 raised to 3. Okay, so my base is 10 and index is what over here? 3. So this is exponent operator we say, and it will give you 10 raised to 3, that is 1000 over here. So if I write over here a is equal to, now if I write over here is 8 and b is equal to 4, and if I write a $b, you will see the answer will be 4096, that is 8 raised to 4 is whatever is, this is the number you will get. So this is my which operator over here? Exponent operator. Now these are my arithmetic operators. Okay, so now moving ahead from arithmetic operators, we have relational operators. So relational operators is basically used to find relation between two numbers. So if I have a equals to some value over here 10 and b is equal to some value of 20, if I check a greater than b, so all relational operators will either evaluate to true or false. So if I check whether a is greater than b, now it is 10 is greater than 20, it will give me false. If I check over here b greater than a, of course it is going to give me true. If I write over here b greater than equal to a, then also whether what it is going to give us true only. If I write a double equal to b, so now what you are going to get over here is false or true. False, because 10 is equal to 20, this is false over here. So this is equality operator. Whenever you want to check the contents whether they are same or not, you are going to use double equal to. And single equal to basically means is you are assigning the value over here. Okay, so whenever we want to assign a value, you can see I have made use of single equal to. Whenever you want to compare the data whether they are equal or not, we are going to use double equal to. Similarly, we also have over here is a not equal to b, suppose. So now a and b both are unequal, they are not equal, so definitely the answer will be what over here is true. So if you look over here, all relational operators we have the output in true or false. Okay, so the output you are going to get over here is in true or false. Okay, the next operator which we are going to look is logical operator. Okay, logical operator, that's what we have read over here. So basically logical operator we have is and, or, and not. Now logical operators are used whenever there are two conditions or more than one condition. To combine those conditions, we are going to make use of logical operators. So logical operators basically and says if both the conditions are true, then the final outcome is true. Okay, what does this mean is, suppose I have a variable over here is suppose qualification. Okay, quali I write over here, and I write over here something over here is called, suppose I write BE. So I have one variable, I have declared one variable called qualification, and suppose I have declared one variable over here called experience with a experience value of 3. Now assume that Think Quotient is a company which is recruiting some employees. Okay, so it is recruiting basically some people as for trainers. There is a requirement for trainer post, and now suppose if we write if the requirement is that compulsory the qualification of the trainer should be BE and he should have experience greater than 3. So if this is a requirement, what we will do is we will write over here qualification equal to BE. Okay, this is my first condition, that the qualification should be what? Compulsory BE. And the second requirement what I told is he should be BE also and he should have experience of more than 3 years. So and we are going to put over here logical operator and experience is greater than equal to 3. So what does this mean is, if a person has got both things, that is he is BE also and his experience is greater than 3 also, so if both conditions are true over here, the final outcome over here will be what? True. So if you check over here, I just press enter over here, so you can see the final outcome is true. Suppose I change my experience from 3 to suppose 1 year. Okay, and now the same logic if I run over here, it will give you what? False. So AND operator, both the conditions are true, then the final outcome is true. Otherwise the outcome, any one is true and other is false, it will give you what? False over here. So AND में क्या है? दोनों conditions should be compulsory true, then the final outcome is true. Whereas OR is what? Suppose tomorrow there is a requirement that you can either be BE or it will, what we can say over here is or your experience should be, if you are not BE it's fine, but your experience should be greater than 3. So now if you see my experience is 1 year but I am a BE person, so will I get the job? Yes, definitely, and true. The condition, if I press enter over here, you will get true. So OR operator says anyone, or means the word, English word itself will tell you or, either this or this, any of that is there, then also you are eligible for the job. Okay, so OR operator, the truth table for OR operator is both is true, then also the outcome is true. Any one is true, then also the outcome is true over here. Okay, so this is OR operator. Now one more thing I would like to tell about and OR operator is, these operators are also we can say depending upon the first condition, the second condition will be evaluated. Means what? See, if I write over here if I write over here 10 divided by 0, suppose I show you, it is giving me a error over here. What is the name of error? Is 0 division error. Okay, and the name message over here, division by 0. So in any programming language or anywhere, we can't divide any number by 0, and if I try to do so, it is giving me an error. So if I write something now this way, what I write over here is qualification is equal to, suppose I write over here MCA, okay, and I write over here is 10 divided by 0. Now if you look over here, my qualification I have set to BE, so this condition will be false. Now in AND operator, compulsory both should be true, but if one is false, let the other be true or false, that doesn't matter. So what AND operator is a smart enough operator, it will first check the first condition. If the first condition is true, then only it will go and evaluate the second condition. If the first condition is false, it will never go and check the second condition. So let us check the output. I press enter over here. You can see immediately you got false over here. Why? Because you have written qualification is equal to MCA. This condition is false, so immediately it gave you the output as false. It didn't went over there and check the condition. Okay, so AND operator, OR operator, these are smart enough operator. Depending upon the first, it will take a call whether it has to go and check the second condition. Now same thing if I do with OR operator. Okay, instead of AND, if I use OR operator. Now in OR operator, what it does is, if the first is false, then it will go and check for the second condition, because in OR operator एक भी true होगा, even one is true, that is sufficient for it. Okay, because OR operator says any one is true, the output is true over here. So now the first condition is false over here, that is qualification is not MCA, so it will try to evaluate the second condition, and now it is going to throw you an error over here, that is divider divided by 0 error over here. Okay, so you can see. And if I write over here properly, qualification is equal to BE, okay, right, if I put, so this first condition will be true over here, so it will never go and now evaluate the second condition. So now if I press enter, you can see it's true over here. Okay, so OR operator and operator will take a call depending upon checking the first value whether it has to go and evaluate the second condition or not. Okay, and not will do is not will negate it. So if I write not operator this way, not of, and I put something over here, suppose I write over here what, this whole thing I put over here. So if I write over here not qualification is equal to BE, so the outcome of this actually will be true, and not of true means it will reverse you and give you the answer as what, false. Okay, so these are my logical operators. Logical operators will always give you the output. Okay, so depending upon first condition it will evaluate, and accordingly the second condition it will decide whether it has to evaluate or not. Okay, so what all operators we have learned is arithmetic operator, relational operator, and logical operator. Okay, till now we have done. Now let us see what are membership operator and identity operator. Now identity operator is okay, identity, it is used to check the identity. So what does it mean is, suppose I have a variable over here a with value 10, okay, and I check the ID over here. If I want to see whether these both references are pointing to same or not, I will check ID over here. So if I write B also is equal to 10 and I check the ID over here. So why I am using ID? Basically to check whether the two references are pointing to a common object or not. So instead of using ID, we can use is operator also. So if I write A is B, so I am trying to check whether A and B both are pointing to the same common object. So if both are having the same address, this will return true, otherwise this will return what? False. So is operator is also called as identity operator, which is used to check that both these references are pointing to a common object or they are having two different objects. So if I write A is equal to some value over here 405 and B is also equal to 405, now we know these two are separate objects because I told you till 256 it will have the same thing. Now if I check A is B, okay, so what it will do is it is giving you false because these two are separate objects in memory. So is operator is used to check whether the two references are same or different, and double equal to operator, if you use double equal to operator, it is used to check the contents whether both are having the same value or not. So now both are having 405, so it's giving you true. So is basically used to check the references, whether the two references are same. If the two references are same, means the object is common, so it will return you true. If the two references are different, it will return you false. Whether when double equal to is used to check contents. Similarly, we also can check A is not B. So whether A and B both are separate or not. So now A and B both are separate, so it will return you true. So is and is not, these are the two identity operators which we can use. Is used to check basically whether both are having the same references, and is not is used to check whether both are having separate references. Okay, so these are what my identity operators. Similarly, we also have membership operator over here. Okay, so what a membership operator is, basically if there is some string, suppose I write S is equal to, suppose I write over here Deepa. Okay, now I want to check whether in this string A is present or not. So what I will do is A in, and I can pass that variable over here S. So if this member is present, membership means what, whether this thing is present in this or not. If it is present, it will return you true if I press. If it's not present, suppose I write over here O. Now O is not present in this S string over here, so it will return you what, false. Membership, the name itself will tell you whether this thing is member of this given iterable type or not. So if it is, now string is an iterable type of object, so is A present in it? Yes, A is present in it, so it will return true. If not, it will return you false. So this is what we say is membership operator. Okay, so I told you we have membership operator. So in and not in is basically if it is not present, reverse the case. If it is not present, it will return you true, and if it is present, it will return you what, false. So membership operator and is in and not in, and identity operator is and is not. Next, we also have bitwise operator, and, or, XOR, and then complement operator. So what are those is, if I write over here, suppose I'll just clear up, Control L over here. So now if I write A is equal to, suppose I write over here 5. Okay, so and I write over here B is equal to 3. Now when I write A ampersand B, okay, so this is a bitwise operator, this ampersand sign over here, single, and what it will do is it will do bit by bit operation on bits. So bitwise operator works on bits. It will do bit by bit ANDing over there, and then you will have the output over here. So if I press enter, I am getting 1. Now let us see exactly what it is doing. So what it does is basically is, so one minute, they change the color over here and the size over here. Okay, so what it does is, whenever you give any value 5, the decimal binary equivalent of 5 is 101. Okay, the binary equivalent of 3 is 100. Okay, it's 100. Now what does and says if both the bits are 1, then the final outcome is 1. So this bit is 1 and this is 0, so the final outcome over here is 0. Bit by bit ANDing it is doing. 0 and 0, it is 0 over here, and 1 and 1 over here is what we have is 1. Okay, so 1 and 1, the outcome will be what over here, 1. And if you convert this into a decimal number over here, so 0 into 2 raised to 0 will do. We are converting from a binary back to decimal over here. This answer which we have got, it's in binary format. Now we need to convert it into decimal, so we will write 0 into 2 raised to this, again 0 into 2 raised to 1, and similarly we are going to write over here is 0 into 2 raised to 2 over here. Okay, and now if you see, anything raised to 0 is 1, but anything multiplied by 0, you will get 0 over here, you will get 0 over here, and 2 square is 4. So if you add it up, the final answer is 4. Okay, so what we have done, let me check. Okay, I've written 3. So we'll take it as what I've taken, one value as 1 minute. What are the values we have taken over here is, okay, 5. The value of A I have kept is 5 and value of B I have taken is 4. So I'll just change it over here. So A is equal to 5, B equals to 4, and if I do ANDing over there, the answer should be 4 over here. Sorry, A ampersand, I will write over here B. So you can see the answer is over here 4. What it is doing internally is, it is converting A into binary equivalent, it is converting B into binary equivalent, and whatever is the answer, it does bit by bit ANDing over there, and whatever is the answer, it converts back to decimal number and it gives you the number. Similarly, you also have OR operator, so you can write over here A or B. Okay, this way, bitwise OR operator over here. So OR B. So what this will do over here is, so you can see the answer is 5. Let us check what it does. So OR says any one is 1. So any 1 is 1, the final outcome. So here this will be 101. Why? Because 1 plus 0 will be 1 in OR operator. So instead of AND, if I am using OR operator over here, OR says any 1 bit is 1, the final outcome will be 1. So this 1 plus 0 will be 1, 0 plus 0 will be 0, and 1 plus 1 also will be 1 over here. So the final binary equivalent we get is 101. Okay, and 101, the decimal equivalent is what over here is 5. That is what we are getting over here. Okay, the next operator which we have is complement operator. So if I if I write over here complement of A, complement basically reverses the value over here. So wherever you have 0, it will make 1, and wherever you have 1, it will make it 0. So it is converting the bits. Complement operator always will reverse it, and accordingly it will give you. So whatever are the bits over here, A. So if you see, let me check over here first. So if I say binary equivalent of what we have, the number in A is 5. Okay, so this is the binary equivalent of 5 over here, 101, and now it is converting this 101. It is complementing each bit over here. 1 becomes 0, 0 becomes 1, and again it will become 0 over here, and accordingly it has given you a negative number over here, that is -6. So complement operator basically reverses the bits. Wherever you have 0, it will make it 1, and wherever you have 1, it will make it 0. Okay, the next thing we have is XOR. Okay, so what does XOR do over here is, basically is XOR is, A is, suppose I write over here 5, and B is, suppose we have over here is 4, again the same values. So if I write A XOR B, so XOR says if both the bits are same, then the output is 0. Okay, so if we see over here, so if I take the value over here, if now this bit 0 and 1, these are separate bits. So if you take 101 over here and 100 over here, so XOR, the truth table of XOR says if both the bits are opposite, then the final outcome is 1. Otherwise, if both the bits are same, it will give you 0. So here it is 100. Sorry, my mistake. 100. So 1 and 0, these are two opposite. Okay, exclusive. So this will give you 1 over here. 0 and 0, the outcome is 0. 1 and 1 is also 0, and 0 0 1, basically it is what? In by a decimal number system, it's 1, that is XOR. Okay, so these are bitwise operator you have. So these are the operators we have studied in Python. So in Python you have different operators over here. You can make use of arithmetic operators or relational operators to check some condition, or logical operators to combine two conditions. Then membership operator basically is used whether it is member of that respective iterable type or not. Then identity operator is used to check whether the two objects are, whether the two references are same or different. Okay, and bitwise operator is to do bit by bit. Okay, bitwise ANDing, if you want to do bit by bit ANDing and operation you want to do, you can go for this bitwise AND operator. Okay, bitwise operator. Now one more thing I would like to say over here is, by default if I write A equals to 10, the number system normally we use in a regular life or normal life is decimal number system. Okay, and decimal wise we say deci means there are 10 symbols, so 0 to 9. So whenever I write A equals to 10, we know it's 10. Okay, but if I want to tell Python interpreter that don't take this as decimal number, take it as a binary number, then we have to write the word 0 first and either capital or small b and then the word 10 over here. So now the Python interpreter will understand that this number which you are writing, it has to understand this number as which equivalent, binary equivalent. So accordingly it will store the number as 2, and if I print the value of a, you will see you will get 2. So see, we have octal number system, we have hexadecimal number system, we have binary number system. So binary basically has got 2 symbols, 0 and 1. Hexadecimal has got 16 symbols from 0 to 9 and A to F. Okay, F will be 15 over here, and octal has got 8. So if I want to tell that this is a number in hexadecimal format, what I will write over here is 0. X will tell it is a hexadecimal number, and if I write over here A, so A basically in decimal number system, A is what, 10. So if I print the value of A, you can see it's 10. Or if I write over here the same thing, instead of A, if I write F, so in hexadecimal we write F, but in decimal number system F means 15. So if you see over here, it's 15. So in Python, if you want to tell the Python interpreter that number is in which number system, if you want to use another number system, so for hexadecimal we can use is 0x. Okay, for binary we are going to use is 0b, either capital or small, any b is allowed over here. So 0, we first thing you are going to write is 0 in all these three. For binary we will use b, for hexadecimal we'll use x, for octal we'll use o. And when you are writing a octal number, so we know that in octal number the possible digits are from 0 to 7. In binary only 2 digits are possible, 0 and 1. And in hexadecimal number systems you have symbols, 16 symbols total. So the 16 symbols will start from 0 to 9 and capital. So 10 is A and accordingly 15 is what, F over here. So by default any number you specify, it is always taken as decimal number. If you want to tell that the number is not in decimal format, it is in hexadecimal or it is in octal or binary, you can specify using this 0b, 0x, 0 accordingly. Okay, so now moving ahead, now in Python, okay, the way we declare variables is, so if you want to do multiple assignments in a single line, okay, so we can do so. How? So we write A equal to, B equal to, C equal to, and I insert some value 10. So in single line I'm initializing 3 variables over here. So if I check the value of A, it is 10. If I check the value of B, it is 10. If I take the value of C, it is 10. Whereas if the same sentence, if we want to write in Java or C++, we would have written this way: int, then A equals to 10, comma, B equals to 20, comma, C. So this is the way we do. But Python, we in one single go, A equal to B equal to C equal to 10 we write. Similarly, if you want to assign different values to different variable, means I want for A I want to assign 10, B I want to assign 20, C I want to assign something. So you can write A comma B comma C is equal to 10 comma 20 comma 30. Okay, and if I press enter over here, you will see the value of A is 10, value of B is 20, the value of C is 30. Basically we are assigning a tuple over here. This is my tuple and that tuple is getting unpacked and it is going to these variables. We'll learn further what is this, but now understand that in a single go we can initialize multiple values to different multiple variables over here. Okay, now assume we have A is equal to suppose 10. Okay, I'll just clear up, Control L. Okay, so if I write A equals to 10 and B equals to 20. Now if you want to swap, write a logic for swapping in Python, what we do is simply we write A is equal to A comma B is equal to B comma A. So if you write there is no requirement of third variable if you do this much, and now if you check the value of A, it is 20 and B is what over here, 10. So in Python the code is, the syntax is so easy and in a single line you are just swapping. So what is happening over here is the value of A is getting assigned to B and value of B it is getting assigned to A. Again this is a tuple, this is basically a tuple, and how it does we'll understand further, but now this is a way we can swap values in Python. So if I have 3 so suppose we want to check whether A is greater than B and B is greater than C. Okay, so if there are 3 variables A, B, C, okay, and I want to check whether A is greater than B and A is greater than C also. So in normal programming language we could have written this way: A is greater than B and A is greater than C. Simply we would have done this way, but in Python there is no need to do. We can chain this, so we can write A is greater than B greater than C in single go, and if this is true, so the value, if it is, now it is false, but suppose I put the value inside A is 90 over here, and again the same thing, if I run, you will 90, what is C over here is the value of A is 90, 90 is greater than B and 90 is greater than C. So let me check over here again. So A is, suppose I specify 90, B is over here, suppose I write 20, and C is some value over here 10, sorry, C is some value over 10, and if I write A greater than B greater than C, okay, so it should return me true. Okay, that's what we can see. So instead of writing this thing this way, A greater than B and A greater than C, we can chain it and write in a single statement A greater than B greater than C. Okay, so this is in Python we say the code syntax is easy. It is takes less lines to write a code. That's what we are trying to see over here. Now in Python interpreter, if you want to write anything, we will use the command print. Okay, and in print, whatever you want to print, you're going to pass over here. Suppose I want to do addition over here, so what I'll do is I'll take one third variable sum or whatever I want. So I can take one variable addition is equal to, I write over here, A plus B plus C, and if I print the value of add, you will see it's 120, because 90 plus 20 plus 10 will make it what, 120. Now to print on screen, what I will do is I'll make use of print function, and to print whatever you want. Suppose I want to print this thing on screen, so I will write over here addition is equal to, then comma separated, you specify what you want to print. So I'll put comma and then print the word add over here and press enter. You will see addition equals to 20. If I want to print all the three variables in Python using print command, so we'll write A comma B comma C over here, and by default the separator is space over here. You can see by default it's, you are getting space over here. Okay, so print command, if you inside print command, if you want to print multiple values over here, you just use comma and separate them, it will print over here. Okay, now so this is what we are doing over here in Python interpreter. Now if I ask you, what I ask you over here is how to create a py file. No, okay, before creating a py file, last program before this, let me teach you one more thing which is remaining is input. Okay, input. Now till now whatever addition we are doing, we are hard coded values we are assigning. So if you want to take input from user, okay, so what we can do is we have a function called input. Inside input part over here, give the message you want on console. So if I write enter number, okay, so if I write enter number, okay, if I write enter number and press enter, it is asking me a number over here. Okay, now I need to store the number. Suppose I take over here no is equal to an input number, I'll write over here. So when I write enter number and I press some number over here, you will see the number is stored in NO. If I print NO, you can see the data is in single quotes, that is, it is in string format. So input function, whatever data you enter, it will always store it as a string. Okay, now we don't, because if I want to do square, if I want to print a square on screen for string, it won't be possible over here. Okay, so I need to convert this back to int. Okay, so this data which I am entering 12, which has got this single quote, I need to convert it into string and then integer, sorry, I need to convert it into integer, and then I can work out any arithmetic operation over here. So what we will do over here is, when we use input function, there is one function called int. Okay, int empty close. Now what int function will do is, it's basically a conversion function, we can say. It will convert the string to integer type. And now, okay, 1 minute, integer type, I'll just go over here and complete it. So now when I type the value over here 12 And now if I check NO, you can see there are no single quotes over here. Now it is integer, and now if I do NO into NO or NO plus NO, whatever I do over here, I'll get the answer over here. So int is a function which is used to convert. Suppose I write over here 23.4. So now if you see, it is giving me only 20. So it is converting the float to integer format. So int is a function which will convert this given data, whatever data you pass over here, that data it is going to convert it into integer. So if you are passing a string this way, so if I write int and in double quotes, if I pass over here 56, now this 56 basically is a string which is enclosed in double quotes. So if I write now, the double quotes are removed and it is doing. So int is a typecasting function which is going to convert the given data into which type? Integer type. Okay, so this is about input, how to take a input. Now what we'll do is we'll do a small program over here in Notepad over here. So I'll go over here and say new. Okay, now save. Okay, save. And now what I'll do over here is, suppose I want to take two numbers from user, so I'll write that is script mode. Now I'm showing you how to do it in script mode. So I'll write over here int, and what I'll write over here is what? Input, enter two numbers, enter number, I'll say first number. Okay, this is my first number, I'll enter, or I can write over here first number. So whatever I type, it will convert it into int and store it in A. Similarly, the same thing I'll repeat over here. So I'll just copy paste over here, Control C, and paste it over here. Okay. Okay. And now what I'll do is addition or add new variable over here, a plus b, and then I'll write over here print sum is equal to, and I'll print over here comma sum, or add, sorry, the variable is add. Similarly, if you want to do subtraction, you can do subtraction also. These are 4 lines. Now I'll save this file, save as. Now you can save wherever you want. Suppose I save it in D:, and I name the file as what? Addition dot py. You change the type from text, but if we don't want text, so convert it. It's in D:. Okay, say save. Now once we save it, this is my py file I have created. Now what we'll do is we'll try to exit from this command prompt mode over here. Okay, now I am back over here, and now here I'll go to D:, and from D:, now I am going to write the command python. Okay, and the name of my file is addition dot py. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is, now that's file which I have created, py file, I'm trying to execute it. So it is asking me first number, I will enter 12, enter the second number, suppose I enter over here is 16. So the addition is what? 28 over here. So are you getting? So I told you, we in Python we can work in 2 mode. One is scripting mode, you type there and there, it will give you the output, and another is scripting mode. In scripting mode, we create a file over here this way. I save this file with .py extension over here. When you saw, I saved it with .py extension, and now I go to my command prompt and type the command python. Okay, we can also type python over here, and the name of file and the extension over here. As the file was in D:, I have switched to D:, and accordingly it's working over here. So this is scripting mode. So this way we can write programs and then execute over here. Okay, so that's what we have done over here, everyone. So we'll stop over here. So what all things we have covered today is, basically in Python we have 5 data types, that is int, byte, int, float, then we have is string, bool, and complex number, which we have studied over here. These are the 5 data types which we have studied over here. By default, Python is dynamic type language, means we never specify the data type. Dynamically at runtime, the type is decided depending upon the value. Okay, the next thing is this data types which we have, these are by default immutable. Immutable means whenever you try to make a change, it is always going to create a new object. The object which is created over here is by default immutable. So whenever you try to create update, so if I write a equals to 10, and down below if I write a is equal to a plus something, I write over here. So we are trying to add inside 10 4. So it is going to create a new object over there, and that now this A is referring to that object. Okay, so that proves that if you check IDs of both, it will be different. This proves that the objects are immutable. Okay, now we have also studied some function type. Type will tell, type you pass the object, it will give you what is the type. ID will return you the memory location. Input is used to check whether the at console, if you want to take input from user, the way we have scanf in C or C in C++, similarly in Python, if you want to take input, we are going to make use of input function from console if you want to take the value. And this int function is a conversion function which is going to convert the given value into int type. Now in Python, by default the number system for integer is decimal. So if you want to tell a Python interpreter that please take this number as convert as in hexadecimal format, so you are going to write 0x and any hexadecimal equivalent over here, any number over here from 0 to 9 and A to F. Binary, for binary we are going to write 0b, and for octal we are going to write 0o. Now in Python, the things which we do in single go over here, in Python we can do in single go over here. So this is where we say it takes less time, it is easy to learn. So in a single go we are assigning same value or multiple values to different variables over here. This is the swap logic. In single go we are doing swap, otherwise in normal programming language it would have taken 3 lines. Okay, and then the last thing which we have done is operators. So operators basically are arithmetic operators, relational operators, logical operators, membership operator, identity operator and bitwise operator. So these are the different operators we have learned. And the last thing which I showed you was the py file, how to create a py file and how to execute it. Okay, so here we will stop everyone. Thanks a lot for listening everyone. Thank you.